Good afternoon, everyone. Hope I am audible to everybody.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Once again, good afternoon, everyone. I am Arvind G, Assistant Professor, Department of MCA, MIT Mysore. Respected faculty members, welcome to the second session of 5-day FDP on Introduction to Python, organized by Department of MCA, MIT Mysore. I am here to introduce today's speaker. It's my pleasure to introduce and welcome today's speaker, Assistant Professor Mahalakshmi M. She is passionate teacher serving as an assistant professor in the Department of MCA, MIT Mysore. She has a bachelor's degree in information science and engineering and MTech with a specialization in computer networks from Vishveshwaraya Technological University, Belgaum, and a member of IEI. Here, her area of interest includes wireless sensor network, AI, machine learning, and IoT. It is indeed a great privilege to have you with us, madam, for our 5-day FDP. Thank you so much, madam, for accepting our proposal and being the part of our program. Now I request Assistant Professor Mahalakshmi madam to deliver the lecture on the topic flow control, functions, and modules. Before handing over the session to the madam, I request the participants to drop your queries, if any, in the chat box, as the question and answer session will be at the end of the session. Thank you. Over to you, madam.
Thank you, Professor Arvind, sir. Good afternoon for everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, madam.
Yes, madam.
Yes, madam.
Is this my presentation is visible?
Yes,
No.
madam.
No, madam.
No, madam. You are visible, but your presentation is not visible.
Presentation बदला share my screen, share the window, presentation, it 17 text. We share the file.
Is it visible now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am, it's visible.
So, welcome to all. These are the content of today's sessions. Flow control. We are going to know about conditional statements, iterative statement, transfer statement. So, when it comes to functions, we are going to know about built-in functions and user-defined functions. So, when it comes to modules, you are going to know about built-in modules and user-defined modules. Let us start with control or a flow control statements. So generally in computer programming, a control flow or a flow control, it is an order of function calls or instructions and statements are executed or evaluated when programming is running. So that is same thing it is applied for Python programming also. A flow control is an order in which a set of statements or a blocks of codes are executed at runtime based on a conditions. So we start with the first control flow statements. So the control flow statements are divided into a three category: conditional statements, iterative statements, and transfer statement. So this is the representation of a flow control. So when it comes to conditional statements in Python, a conditional statement, it acts depending on whether a given condition is true or false. So we can execute different blocks of codes depending upon the outcome of a conditions. So these are all the control statements. If statements, if else, if else, nested if else. So we'll start with if statements. So here, if going to check that whether a given condition it is evaluated, either it returns true or false. So this is the syntax of your if conditions. So as with if condition, the condition can be a valid expressions. The expression you have learned in the yesterday's session means any Boolean expressions or any valid expression will be given as a conditions. So if that condition is true, then the block of codes which is present in if block that will be get executed. Otherwise, it not going to execute. So in Python, after we are defining a if statement, we are going to end with the colons. Okay, so this will be treated as it is a if statement header, or it treated as end of if header. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, once the condition is true or when condition get evaluated in Python, you need to give a 4 indentations. Means in our other programming language, we are going to use a curly braces to run or a block of code to represent. We are going to use a curly braces. With respect to Python, we have a indentations. Is the program is visible?
No, madam.
Once again. Now it is visible?
Ma'am, can you zoom it, that code?
One second. Now it is okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So this is how we are going to create or we are going to check with the if conditions. Here I have taken a variable called number and number with assigned a value called 6 and checking that whether number it is greater than 5. So if the number it is greater than 5, then I am going to execute or I am going to calculate a square of that number. Once I calculated that number, I'm just coming out of that if conditions. I'm just printing the next line of code in a console. Shall I run the program? So yesterday, you know how to run a program, right? In files, means ideally prompt. So when you run that code, you will get an output. So here, the number value it is 6. So 6 multiplied by 6, that is 36. That will be displayed by using a print statement. So after executing the if conditions, the next line of the code will be get printed. Okay. So same thing we can execute, same set of statements can be executed in your shell also. Okay. Number equal to 5, and here I'm giving a condition as if number is greater than 5 and ending with the if statement, that is colon. Then you just observe that you will get a 3 dots. So it is a white screen, so that you're not able to visualize that 3 dots. Okay. It will give an indentation, automatic indentation will be given, 4 space. Then you need to type whatever the statements you wanted to execute with respect to this statement. Number multiplied by 12. So observe that when I press enter, it will come to the next line. So it assumes that the if condition block, it is not being over. So if you wanted to complete, or if you're done with the if condition statement, then once again you need to press enter. Means you need to give a blank line to this to show that it is the end of that if condition statements. Is it clear?
Yes, madam.
This is how you will get the output when you are executing programs in shell. So next comes if-else statements. So with respect to if, we are going to check that whether the condition it is valid or not. When it comes to if-else, so if the condition is true, we are going to execute some set of statements. If the condition is false, then we are going to execute other set of statements. Because we have a choice when we have a true and false statements. Is it code is visible? So here I'm taking an input through a keyboard, and whatever the value I'm taking, that is assigning to a variable called password. And with the based on condition, if the password it is admin 123, then I'm printing that it is a correct password. Otherwise, it is an incorrect password. So I will run this code. So I will get a correct answer, means the condition will become true, so that the block of statement which is present in true statement, that is print correct password, that has been executed. So once again I am running. This time I am giving something else. So it's saying that it is an incorrect password because I've missed or spelling is mistake with respect to while typing the password. So usually what we have not have a one single condition will be not satisfied. We may have multiple conditions to check. So like when we are ordering for any other things, means if you are ordering any dosa, or if you are going to check a balance, or if you have a grading, so there may be a different condition will be checked. So if you are ordering for any dosa or any food products in a hotel, then you are going to check different conditions, whether it is good for health and all those things. And if you are checking with your balance account in a bank, it will going to check whether you have a limit, means you have a limited amount of balance, or you have a exact amount of balance in your account, or if you have any more than the balance is required. So usually the problems when we have multiple if condition, or maybe we have multiple conditions to check. So in that time we have a multiple if statements. So this is goes like this: if the condition is satisfied, then statements of will be executed. Otherwise, you have one more clause called EF. That is, it stands for else if conditions. So else if condition will be get executed. So like that, you have a n number of EF conditions. So meantime, you may have a one else clause. So this is with respect to the balance enquiry. Here once again, I'm taking a input, I'm converting into a floating point representations. You know that in Python by default, whatever the input we take, that will in the form of strings. So that we need to convert it to either integer form or a floating point forms. So that we are converting it to a floating point form and checking that whether the balance it is below the required, means zero balance or less than that. So then if that is the case, then we are going to print some messages, and once again we are checking that else if balance if it is equal to the 0, and if that is balance is equal to 0, then we are printing some statements, and if the balance is above the required, then we are printing some statements. So here we are checking all the conditions. So if I give the value as negative value, then the first condition will be get checked, because balance it is negative, means less than the 0. Then it says that balance is below 0, add fund now, or you will be charged a penalty. So like that, I can run for other options. If I enter it is 0, it says that its balance is equal to 0, add fund soon. So if I give if I enter value as 5,000, then your balance is above. You need to observe one thing here. When we are going with if or multiple if conditions, if the first condition is false, then only it will come to the EF conditions. Otherwise, it won't come. Okay? So next is nested.
Hello.
Here means we are nesting the if condition itself. Okay. So nested if statement is if the first condition is true or it is evaluated condition is true, then only going to go for a next remaining if conditions. Otherwise, it directly come to the else. Okay. So here we are going to check that whether greater number between the two numbers. Code is visible, right? Okay. Once again, in all the programs so far you have seen, we are taking the input through a keyboard. Once again, in taking input, so it's in the form of strings, so that I need to convert it to the integer form. So that is what I'm doing, int. So after that, I'm checking that whether a number 1 it is greater than or equal to a number 2. So if it is greater than and or it is equal to, then once again I'm checking that whether the number 1 is equal to number 2. So if first condition is true, then I'm checking that the second one is also, if the number is true. If it is that, then it's going to print that both number 1 and number 2 are equals. If it is not, then I'm going to say that number 1 it is greater than number 2 because the first condition is true. And if number 1 it is not greater than, by default the else part will be going to run and it says that number 1 it is smaller than number 2. The first number it is 34 and second number it is 24. 34 it is greater than 24. So 12 is smaller than 39. So 55 and 55 are equal. So we are satisfied with, we are checked with all the conditions. So whatever we have seen, like a code or a block of codes. So in Python, we call this as a suits. Okay. So usually we call it as a block or a function block or a function body like that we call in other programming language. But when it comes to Python, we call it as a suit. So instead of writing a single line of code with respect to giving indentations and new line, we can write a single statement. We can write the suit in a single statement. This is how we can write it. So instead of taking entering to the new line, we can write the code in a single line. So after ending the condition header part. So after colon, you can write the whatever the statements you wanted to print. So it is suits for only single line. If you have only single line to execute, then you can go with this kind of program writing. So value I have not taken through keyboard. So the value here it is -25. So obviously it is a negative. So number it is not greater than 0. So the condition is true. Then sorry, condition is false. Then the else part will be get executed. It means negative. So if I change this value to, if I remove that sign, then I will get a output as positive. So you have observed that in all the else clause, there is no conditions. So only if we have a condition, else clause will not have a conditions. I think it is clear with if conditions. So I go with, I wanted to brief it out. So if it's a statement to check that whether the condition can be executed. So based on some conditions, we are going to execute the statement. So for that, we are going to use a if clause. So if condition is true, then set of statement will be executed. So in Python, we are going to write a program as if the expression or a conditions and ended by a semicolon. So after that, so there will be a default for indentation will be given to specify that it is a block of statements which belongs to the if conditions. That is with respect to a if. So when it comes to else clause, we have a if condition, set of statements, then else. If the condition is true, then it is going to execute else part. So meantime, we have a multiple if statements. So if the first condition is not satisfied, we are going to check with next conditions. If the second condition is also not satisfied, we are going to check with other conditions. So meantime, when all condition is not satisfied, we have a else part. By default, it's going to run. So for checking multiple number of conditions, we have a EF, that is else if. So nested if means the if statements will contain another if conditions. So this is what with respect to your if conditions. Okay. So next move to the iterative statements. So in iterative statements, it allows to execute a block of code repeatedly as long as the condition is true. So this iterative statement is also called as a loop statements. So with respect to Python, we have two loop statements to perform some actions repeatedly. That we called as a for loop and while loop. So we will go with first for loop. So we'll use a for loop when we know that or we need when we are going with a fixed number of time. So we need to repeat a fixed number of time, then we are going with the for loops. So in for loop, you can iterate any sequences or iteratable variable. A sequence, it can be a range, string, list, dictionary, set, or a tuples. So this is syntax for your for loop. So for is a keyword and variable, or it may be an iterator variable, and in is an operator, and here a sequence, it can be either list, tuples, set, dictionary, or strings. So based on this variable, we are going to check or we are going to follow the sequence. So with respect to for loop, the variable we're going to take the value of an item which is present inside the sequence in each of the iterations, and loop will continue till the last element which is present in the sequence. Okay. So the loop variable, it is assigned the first item in the list, and the block will be get executed. And once again, the block will be automatically get incremented. So once the block is take a first value, then block of segment will get executed. That we called as a iterations. So variable takes a first value in a sequence and it's going to execute a set of segments in a loop that we called as a one iterations. So this will continue till all the elements present in a sequence get ended. Okay. So as with your for loop, a variable will get assigned a new value at beginning of the each iterations. So let me take an example. So here I've created a variable called state and assigned a string value called Karnataka. Okay. So after that, I'm going to be displaying each character from the variable from the string sequence. So for I'm going to take a variable called ch. In is an operator, then a variable or a sequence. That is sequence here it is state. So same thing, we are going to end with a semicolon. It means that we are ending the header part or we are defined the for loops. So once it has been done, so it comes to the new line with the 4 indentation space. So here I am printing each character. So as usual, so you need to give a blank line so that it will be treated as that is end of a for loop. So once I press enter, automatically the character will be get printed. So in first iteration, the character value will going to take the first value, that is k. So when it comes to block, it going to print that value, means k will be get printed, means the for loop it has not been ended, so it moved to the next element which is present in a state variable a, that will be taken and that will be get printed. So it's like continuous. So till the sequence get ended, the sequence ends at a, ka after Karnataka a, there it going to end. So after end, it come out of the loop. So usually we call indentation will starts with 0. State of 0 will represent first value. So this is how we are going to make index. So state of 0 will represent k. So this value will be assigned to the variable called ch. So you know in operator. So in operator will going to check the first operand is present in a second operand or else. So we have learned in terms of strings, it's going to check that whether the first character is present in the right or the second on the other side of the character or other side of the strings. So likewise, it's going to take all the elements and it's going to print it. So let us take a program. So here I'm using a one more built-in function called range. Okay. So I'll just run the code. After that I will explain. So when I run the code, you have seen 0 to 9 it has been printed. So ranges of functions is going to generate a sequence of number. So it's going to generate a sequence of number from 0. Okay. So it by default it starts from 0 and by default it's going to increment by a 1 and it will stop at a specified number. Okay. This is a general form of your range functions. Range will going to give only integer value. It's not going to return any other value. So it's going to give a sequence of integer value. This is the program. So here I'm passing only one parameter. So if I pass only one parameter, it assumes that it is the stop size or it is going to tell that so range need to run up to 10 numbers, means 0 to 9, and the 10th element means the number 10 will be get omitted or it get eliminated because we have started with the value called 0 index. So if I specify 1, 10, then I need to say then it's going to start generating a sequence of number from 1 to 9. So you know that here I've specified our ending statement, it is a 10, so that the last element will be get omitted. So usually len minus 1 will number of sequence will be get generated. So as I said, so it is going to increment only by 1 by default. You can change by passing a third parameter to a range function. So if I specify it as a range 2, so 1 is starting range, 10 it is till that number of time it need to generate a sequence, and this 2 indicate is a number of step size that range function should be work. So 1, 3, 5, 7 and 9 are the elements. So this is how we are going to execute a range function in your for loop. Is it clear? So same program added with the sum. Okay. So I'm taking a variable called sum, assign with a value called 0 for I in the range of 2 to 22, and here the step size it is 2. I'm going to sum, or I'm going to add all the elements which is present in a sum, and that will be get printed. So total it is 110 elements. So this is one more example. Here I am taking a sequence as a list. So lists are represented by using a square bracket, and elements are separated by using a commas. So this is a list. I am assigning a list to a variable called numbers. So through a list I am iterating over the data. So here the value of I will be the first element in the list, and it's going to square that number, and that will be stored in the variable called square. And meantime, the print statement will going to print a square of the first list value. So square of 1 it is 1, square of 2 it is 4, square of 3 is 9, square of 4 it is 16, and square of 5 it is 25. So once again, I'm creating a list with a variable called values. See, you observe here that I is square or power up to the 2. So this is a power operator, a representation that will be get multiplied, and that will be stored in your square. So when I execute this, so you will get a answer, means the list will get updated. So list means it's like array. It's going to store the data in form of order, and it is a mutable one. Means the data can be changed in a list. So if it is that, if I try to change the value of a list value using this for loop, it won't work. Okay. So for that, I need to go with one more statement. So I need to take a length of the value, then I need to pass that length of value to the range functions. Through range functions, I need to go with, if I want to change the list elements through your for loop. Okay. So I have declared a variable here for I in range len of values and print so this is how I need to fetch indexing the value of your list elements. So 0th index, I have a 4. First index, I have a 10. At the second index, I have a -6. At the third index, I have a 8. At fourth index, I have a 2. So using this logic, I need to update the value of list when we are running for running using your for loop. You can observe that the content of the list values are get updated if I go with like this. Okay. So next comes your while loop. So the while loop statements are repeatedly executed when we know that a particular condition should be get satisfied. When condition is become true, then a number of iteration is fixed. So based on that conditions, we are going to run a now block of statements. So we are going to run till we encounter a counter value to a less than a 5.
execute.
Error in this code. Okay. So I will go with other example. So here I am taking a number, I am going to divide that number by 3. So how many counts are required to divide that number 3 till the number will become greater than 10 or it reaches the 10. Okay. So it requires total iteration it is 4. So 4 times the while loop has to be executed, then only it will come to the less than the or greater than the 10. So if I change this value to the 75, so the number of iterations may be changes. So you can see that the number of iterations is required only 2. So just recall, in looping statements or in iterative statements, we have a for loop and while loop. So we are going to for loop when we know that or we know that exactly this much of time I need to run a set of codes, then we are going to use a for loop. And with respect to while loop, we do not know how many times we need to execute. So we are going to run based on certain conditions, then we are going to use a while loop. So next comes a transfer statements. So usually the program will going to run continuously. So if you wanted to break or if you wanted to make any skip of the for part of the loop based on some conditions, then we are going with this transfer statements. So in Python there are 3 types of loop control statements: break, continue, and pass. So break statement it is used inside the loop to exit out of the loop itself. So this is the syntax of your break. You just need to type a break. So here once again I am creating a list. So running through that, I am checking that whether the list element it is greater than 100. So if the list element it is greater than 100, I am just breaking that. That means I am just coming out of the loop. See, so with respect to the first value in the list, it is 10. Yes. The condition it is not satisfied, means condition is false. Then it come out of the if condition, that is print. It going to print the I value. I value is the first value of your list, that is 10. In next iteration, I going to take a value called 40, and that will be checked with the if conditions. Yes, the condition is true. 40 it is okay. Then it comes to the print statement. I'm going to print. So next I value will be get incremented. It takes the next value, that is 120, and here it's going to check that if the 128 is greater than 100. Yes, the condition it is true, then it's going to break, means it ends the for loop and it come out of the program itself. So here, I'm explaining this break inner loop. So here you have two loops. Okay, we are generating a multiplication table. So when both I and j value will become, or when I and j value is greater than 5, I'm going to break the loop. Okay? Whether I need to explain all the things? Okay. So this is how we're going to print. So for the first 5 multiplications up to 5 values, you just simply keep on running, or just going to print I into j and print. So when I and j value will become 5, the only half of the table will be get displayed. So this is how when it reaches a 5, we are coming out of the inner loop, means j loop will be get terminated and we are in a I loop. Okay. So you can observe here that print statement will have a end equal to space. So in print functions, these are all the parameters we are going to change. So by default, print parameter end will take a new line. So here I am changed to a blank space. So next you have a continuous statements. Continuous statement is like yes, just to skip the current iteration to the next iterations. So this is a syntax of your continue. So here I'm just checking that I'm just squaring the value of which is present in a list, and if I encounter a number which is greater than a 10, I'm just skipping that value to a new iterations. Here I have a 4 values 2, 3, 11 and 7. So when I encounter the number with greater than 10, it just skips that iteration to the next value. So the current number it is 2. And square of current number it is with the 2 into 2 it is 24, and the next element in the list it is 3, and square of that number it is 9, and next element from the list it is 11. So here we have given a conditions. If it is greater than 10, you just continue or just take the next iteration. So based on that, it's not going to give a square of 11. So instead of that, it just takes a next value from the list, that is 7, and it gives a square of that number. So next comes your past statements. So past is just a keyword. We don't do anything. So when we are going to deal with our models, so if you are creating or if you are trying any other things, means if you are doing any library functions or if you are building your own functions, then you wanted to just go through with it. Then you are going to use this past statement. So there is nothing with respect to this past. You are just passing. That's it. So once again, I'm taking a list. So I'm just passing the loop. That's it. So it prints all the elements which is present in the list. Jan, March, April, and June. So move on to the functions. So in functions is a block of code which is defined by the name. So usually function is used for reusability of the code. So when we have a large number of or we have a big problems, we cannot write all the codes in a one single program. So that we have a functions. So Python has a drive principles like other programming language. Drive principle means don't repeat yourself. So you have a functions, use the functions and repeat it. That's it. So with respect to functions, we have two types of functions. One is built-in function, another one is user-defined functions. So these are some of the built-in functions: ABS, bin, eval, exec, range, id, perf, type, input, print, and etc. So the ABS will give an absolute value of a given number. So if I give ABS of 5, it gives a 5. Absolute of value of -5, it is 5. Absolute value of -5.7, so it gives 5 itself. So next comes your bin. So bin will give the binary version, or it's going to convert an integer value to a binary representations. So bin of 12, it gives a binary value and it is prefixed with OB or 0B1100. That is equivalent of your binary value 12. So it is prefixed with OB. So you have a eval. So we're going to evaluate the expressions. So to evaluate the expressions, we are going to use a eval. So in eval, it is a string format. So we're going to evaluate the string formatted data to our evaluations. So here I'm passing 23 plus 45, it gives it as a 68. Next we have a EX, EC. So this is going to execute the code. So if I assign A equal to 0, semicolon, B equal to, A equal to 10, B equal to 25, print X plus B. Maybe version changes, maybe there is a version difference if I execute with this. You have a help, built-in functions. So through that you can check out where I am making the mistakes. Okay, help is a built-in functions. It's going to display a help of a particular functions or anything which is built in by Python. As you know, range. So we're going to generate a sequence of number by default 0 to 10 minus 1. Then ID. So this will going to give the identification of a variable or any value. So if X is assigned with a value called 10, then ID of this X object will return the memory allocation or memory address of that value. So if y is equal to 45, then ID of this y will give the other memory address. Then you have a power functions of so this will give a power. This is a 2 power 3. So this will return 8. You can give power of 5 power 3. So it will return 125. Then you have a type functions which is going to define what kind of data it contains. For example, I have created a x variable called x. So if I go with that, it tells that it is a type of integer value because it contains a value called 10. It is of type integer. So like that, if I type so it says that it is a class type and it is a built-in function or a method. So it's going to define what kind of data it is. The type function is going to return what kind of data it is. So next comes input. To take an input from the keyboard, we are going to use a input and a print statement to print anything on our consoles. So we can go with help of print. So this will give a brief of print statements. So you can observe that print is going to give values and SCP is a separator. So by default we are going to separate the value by space, and when print statement is executed we are going to end with a new line, and we have other two options, that is file. If we are going to save, if the print statement should be get saved to us some other files, here we are going to specify through this changing this file attribute of print, and once again it is a flush, it's going to truncate all the data. So other you have some of other you have a built-in functions. So let us go with user-defined functions. So user-defined functions are created by a programmer. So based on according to their requirement, they are going to create the defined functions. So we are going to follow these steps when we are going to define our functions in Python. So we are going to use a diff keyword, and the keyword is followed by a name of the functions or a function name. Then we are going to specify a number of parameters that will be taken by the function, and this will be an optional one. So after defining a header of the function that has been defined, then we are going to write a block of body, a function body will be get written. Okay, so wherever we are going to use this, that we are going to always remember that the Python will going to use indentations. Okay, so if you're not going with indentations, obviously you will get a error. So this is the syntax of creating a functions. Diff is a keyword and function name, it is the name of the function, and optional parameters. As usual, we are going to end with the colon. So this is the header of your function. Then the function body. Then we have a return value. And major thing here it is, after defining your functions, you can add a doc strings. So when we are define our functions, immediately after that we need to define a doc strings if you are required. Otherwise it is not. If you are required, immediately after defining your functions, you need to create a doc string of that program or a functions. So this is how we are going to create a function. So diff is a keyword, message is a function name. And here I'm not going to take any of the parameter. So just creating a or define a function, and this is a block of code when I execute this or when I call this functions. Okay. So for calling a function, we are going to call by using the name of that function. So this is the way we are going to call the function. So this is how we are going to define a function, and we are going to write the action to perform for that functions. So when I run, you will get a welcome to Python function program. Yes, welcome to Python function program. So this is without any passing any parameter to a function. So let pass a parameter to the functions. So here I'm creating a function called course function, and it's going to take a two parameter. One is name and another one is a FDP name. So after that, after defining a course function, I'm writing the body of that function. It is just printing the name and printing the FDP name. So this is a function body, and after that I'm calling this function using that function name, and meantime I'm passing a value to that functions. The function value does Abhilash and introduction to Python. So this will be automatically substituted to the following parameter. So hello Abhilash, welcome to FDP. Your FDP name is introduction to Python. So you have observed that in both the programs we have not taken any return statement from the functions. So for that, let me take one more example. Okay, here I'm given a return statement from the function. I have created a function called calculator. It takes two parameters. So with that parameter, I'm going to add those two parameters, and I'm returning the value of the two added value from the function to some variable. So when I'm calling that function, I'm assigning that value to a variable called res. Okay, and once again that will be printed using your print function. So addition of the value a and b means here I'm passing value as 20 and 25. So when it get added, it is 25, and that is returned from this calculator, and that will be stored in a variable called result. So you can change this value to some other, and you can check. Every time when you change a file, you need to make sure that you have saved your files. So next it is your calling of functions. So functions can be called either in a same function itself, or else you can call this function in some other program by importing it. Either you can call it in a same function, means same program, or else you can call it in some other program by importing to the particular program. So here I'm just printing that value, that means I'm just calling that value, and that's it. I'm not going to import it to some other files. I will show how to import in the next slides. I'm just returning value from this, or I'm just calling a functions. So here I'm passing a value as 90. And in functions, I'm checking that whether the number modulus of 2, if it is equal, it is an even number. If it is not equal to 0, then it is an odd number. We know that 19 it is an odd number. So obviously, the if condition will become false, then else part will be get executed. So based on that, we get output as odd number. So next is your doc strings. The doc string is also called as a document strings. So it is like a descriptive text which is written by a programmer to know when some other going to refer your code. So that time the doc strings will be 10. And these doc strings are written either using a 3 or a triple single quotes or triple double quotes. So here I have written takes in a number n, written the square of n. So this will be your doc strings. So this is how we are going to create a doc string for a functions. So when we have defined a function called square, so immediately after that we need to define a doc strings. Okay. So it return n or n square of 2. To check with the document strings, we need to go with a square, means the function name, then a variable called doc. So this will give, this variable will give the document string. Okay, so this is the attribute of a function called square. So this attribute or a variable will contain this doc string data. So next is returning a value from a functions. So we know that whatever we do, we need to get from anything from the functions or a program. So that we are going to use a return statement. So we have defined our functions is even, and here I am passing a parameter as list of elements. Okay. So when I am passing a list of elements, I need to go with, or I need to check a list of elements which is present in the list. How many are even numbers? So if the even number appears, I need to append that number to some other list. So you can observe that append is a function which is used to append a value to a list. And here this function will going to return a list of value, that is even num. So even numbers are 2, 42, 62, 70, and rest of them are not a even numbers. So whatever object it is written, it is a list, and we need to assign to some other list is also. So here we have written only one value. So if I wanted to return multiple value, so if I wanted to return multiple values, so that I'm going to use this expression. So if a function wanted to return multiple values, I'm going to use following statements. So here we are performing all the arithmetic operations, addition, subtraction, multiplication and divisions. In the return statements, I am passing all the values. And meantime, when I'm calling that functions, I'm same thing, I'm assigning value to the variable, that is A, B, C, D. In what order the return statement has been done, in same order we are going to assign the assignment will be taken place. So A will get a addition value, B will get a subtraction value, C will get a multiplication, and D will get a division of the value. Addition of two number, it is 10 plus 2, 12. Subtraction is 10 minus 2, 8. Multiplication 10 into 2, it is 20. Division 10 by 2, it is float. So here we are done with floating point, so that we are getting a 5.0. So with respect to passing the argument to our functions, we have four types of arguments. One is positional argument, another one is keyword argument, next is default, and last one is a variable length arguments. So first go with positional arguments. So when it comes to positional arguments, the arguments should be a proper positional orders. Otherwise, we will get a missed value or unknown values. So this is a program. Here I am creating a function fun. I am taking the value as a and b. So I am passing value as print a minus b. So if I run, I will get one is positive 40 and another one is negative 40. So you need to consider in which positions I need to place this value. So if it is mismatched, you will get a negative values. So like this. So I required a positive 40. But by replacing or misplacing the value, I have received a negative 40. So next comes your keyword argument. So here we are passing the argument based on the variable name which we are defined in the functions. Okay. So we are passed to a function which is specified by your variable name and it will equal signs. So here a message function has been created with a parameter or argument called name and surname. So in the function of body itself, we are printing hello, name and surname. So when I calling the functions, I am assigning a parameter or argument with a value. Means variable will be get assigned with a value. So this is we called as a keyword arguments. Okay, name equal to Ajay, surname equal to Rob. If you change this order of these arguments, it's not going to make any errors. Okay. In the second function call, I have made a mistake, or I have changed the position of the argument. So first I pass a surname, then a name. Okay. So it won't make any errors in while printing the statement or executing the function call. So first one it is hello Ajay, hello Bhumika Shetty. Since I have changed the order, then also it's not going to matter. Based on the key, it's going to substitute the value of this key to a exact positions. So you can observe that here I have used both positional arguments as well as your keyword argument. So once again, first name and last name has been defined. So in functions body I am displaying a hello. Then I am calling a functions Shankar Reddy in first time. In second time I am calling Shankar and giving a keyword argument, means last name should be a Reddy. Okay. Yes, it get printed. So you know that hash indicate it is we are making a command, means we don't want it to execute the particular line, then we are going to make a hash. So if I run now, then I will get a error message. See, positional argument follows a keyword argument. So you need to remember that when you are combining with a positional argument with a keyword, first you need to use a positional argument, then only you need to use the keyword argument. So this second call it is correct. If you are going with third call, so this will give a error. So first you need to call a positionals, then only you can go with the rest of the methods of keyword arguments. So next comes your default arguments. So default argument means if nothing has been sent, so by default whatever it is in the which is defined to a variable or which is defined for the parameter that will be taken. So based on that, the function will going to calculate. So here a message with a parameter called name, I am assigned a value as guess. So when I calling that message, if I pass any parameter, then it's going to take that parameter. Otherwise, whatever we have assigned or whatever we have assigned with us during the function defined definitions, that will be get printed. In first call, I am using a Rishabh. In second call, I am just giving a blank. Okay, so in first call, the Rishabh value will be get substituted. In second, there is no parameter. So by default, I have given a name value as guess, that will be get substituted. Next comes a variable length argument. So variable length means we don't know how many number of arguments that can be passed to our functions. So in that time, we can use this variable length argument, and the variable length argument are defined using a asterisk symbol or a star symbol. And this will always return in terms of tuples. Tuples is a kind of a sequence or a data structure to store a data in a ordered way. So I have defined a function called addition. So using a star mark, I'm treating that it takes a number of values will be get varies depending on the parameter which we are going to pass during a calling of functions. So just adding all the numbers which we have passed in the function, and it's going to give us sum of the numbers. In a first function call, I'm not passing anything. It is a simple call. In second function calls, I'm passing 5 arguments. In third function call, I'm passing 3 values. So with respect to the first call, I'm getting sum is 0. In second, I'm getting it is at 26. In third call, I'm getting output as 87.5. So this is how you can pass a number of values to a functions. So once again, we have a recursive functions. A function call itself means again and again it call itself, that we call as a recursive function. So you know factorial, the function call itself. In Python, we have a built-in function, factorial, but then also we are going to write a recursive way. So this is how here we are calling a factorial recursively. Means a function call itself a number of times till the condition will become false, or the base condition will going to evaluate. So here I am calling with the value called 8. So it gives answer as 40,320 as a factorial for 8. So one more function you have with respect to Python, that is anonymous function or a lambda function. So if you wanted to create or declare a functions without any name, or if we have a nameless property of a function, then we are going with the anonymous function or a lambda functions. So this is syntax of your lambda function. You need to use a keyword called lambda, then a argument list and a colon, then expression. Okay. Here I made a mistake. I used a colon. Don't use colon. Put a lambda, argument list and expression. A lambda function is going to evaluate the expression for a given argument. Okay, it's going to evaluate the expressions for the given argument list. So let us try to execute a program. Add a 10 to your argument A and return the result. Keyword lambda, argument list it is A, and expression it is A plus 10. Okay, then print x of 5. So this will give the value as 15. Okay, so this is how we are going to use anonymous functions, lambda, argument and expressions. So these expressions will be evaluated for this argument. So here argument it is A means 5 and we are applying that value to we are going to evaluate 5 plus 10, that will become 15 and that will be displayed. So in lambda functions, we have other built-in functions such as filters, map, and reduce, which is works with your lambda functions. So with respect to filter functions, the function is used to filter the values. So filter the values in a lambda function, we are going to use this filter. So this is the syntax: filter, function, and sequence. So your function means the argument which is responsible for your performing certain conditions, and a sequence can be any like list, tuples, and strings. So example, we're going to filter a function and it's going to return a filter object, so that you need to encapsulate it to a list and it's going to return that particular value. Okay, I have created a list contains a set of values. I have written a lambda functions. So x is a argument and expression is for your lambda function it is x modulus of 2, which is equal to 0. So I'm checking that whether the value of x is modulus of 0. It is when it comes to modulus, it returns a 0. If it is, then I'm saying that it is a even number. Okay, so this is a expression lambda x colon x modulus of 2 equal to 0. It is a function for your filter function. Lambda is a one function which is checking that whether we are going to check even numbers of which is present in a list, and this is applied to a one more function called filter. So you can see that syntax, function, and sequence. So the sequence here it is L. You know that sequence can be a list, tuples, and sets. So list is a sequence. So this function will be applied for your list or a sequence, And once again, whatever the value which is written from this filter, that will be assigned to a list of variable, that is even numbers. So when I run this, I will get whatever the number which is even, that will be get displayed. So out of this list, we are going to filtering which are all the even numbers. So next comes a map functions. So map function is used to, we need to apply for everything. So then we are going to use a map function. So syntax is same for filter and map, same thing, map function, and we are going to apply it for sequence. Here is the code. So once again, creating a list or a list of variable has been created. So here I'm making a cube of the function. I'm making a cube function, lambda function. So this is applied as a function and a sequence it is list. So I'm applying a cube function to a sequence called list1. Okay. And that will be storing once again a list called cube. Means I'm applying all the elements should be get cube. Whatever the values which is present in a list one, that should cube. So then that time we are going with the map. So instead of writing this statement, I can add built-in function called for x comma. So this also gives same, because we'll not change the original list value, so that whatever the adaptation, that is only for cubes. Next comes your reduce function. So this function is used when we are going to minimize the sequence of elements to a single value. So as you see in a list, you have a n number of values. So you don't want all the numbers. So you need only minimize of that number. Then we are going with the reduce functions. Syntax, reduce, a function and sequence. So here, lambda function takes a two value, means two arguments, and expression it is multiplication of those two values to a sequence called list. Means we are just adding the content of the function. And one more thing, when I'm going to use a reduce functions, I need to import a function tools. So this reduce function is in a module called function tools, so that I need to import that module, then only I can use this reduce function. So addition of all this element, it will be the 54. So this is with respect to your functions. Functions can be of two types, user defined and built-in functions. So when it comes to built-in functions, you have Python has a number of functions like ABS, power, eval, ex, ec, so many things, len, min, max, sum, average, all those things. So when it comes to user-defined functions, you can create a function using a diff keyword and followed by a colon, and parameter it is optional, and you can pass an argument in a different way, either keyword based or a positional based or a multiple value can be passed. So Python has a lambda functions or anonymous functions without giving any name, so we can create a functions. So this is about the functions. Next we have a modules. So in Python module, which refers to the Python file, we call it as a models. Like models, like we are going to create our own set of statements and classes and functions and variables that we call as a models. And when we are creating our models, we are going to save that file with the extension called .py. So for example, test.py. So here the test will become the name of the module. So there are two types of modules. One, it is built-in modules. Another one, it is user-defined modules. So built-in modules will come with default Python installations, and some of the commonly used built-in modules are datetime, time, OS, math, sys, system, random, and so many things you have. And when it comes to user-defined, the user going to define their own modules. So you need to import those models which is already defined. So for that, we are going to use a statement called import, and we are going to use import module name. So here is the example, import math. Okay. So I need to type import math. So it says that I've imported all the math libraries. So you can check that, type math. It says that it is of type class and it is a module. Okay. So you know that when it comes to Python, it is object oriented. So if I wanted to access any functions or variables, I need to use a object dot followed by the function names, right? So same way, I need to go with, if I wanted to access any of the math module functions, I need to go with object, that is math dot a function name. Okay, when I press A, it automatically displays some of the functions which is present in a math module. You can see async, sine, cosine, tan, cos, degree, exe, all those things. Okay. So math dot factorial will give factorial of a given number. So factorial of a 5 will be 120. So like this, we are going to access modules. So if you wanted to import only specific classes of functions from a module, then we are going to use a statement like from module name import the which functions we are going to perform. When I importing only specific functions, I can directly call that functions without a object name. So that I can call factorial without using object of that module, I can call the functions. If I importing only specific, okay. So if you wanted to, like you want all the functions is present in a module, but you cannot type every time the full object name, so that we are making it as a aliasing way. So the further we are going with import the module name, and we are giving a value as means aliasing and the aliasing variable name. Import math as M. So M dot sqrt of 25 will give 5. Square root of 25 is 5. So if you wanted to import all the function which is present in a math module, you can give a command like from math import star. So you're going to import all the functions and variable means data types which is present in a math. While is a variable of a math class, it holds the value called 3.14 something, and that will be get multiplied by 3. So once you have imported a math or any module, you don't need to import every time. So it automatically, one time it is get loaded, it will be there. So if you change content of that module, then only you need to reload the models. Otherwise, no need of importing again and again. So this is a document where you will get a list of models which is present in a Python. You have a ABS, VFS, so many things. These are all the different modules which is present in a Python. See, help of math. So it will give a 270 lines of code. You just double click on that, you will get all the functions which is present in your math modules. So first, it gives a help on built-in module math and what is the name of that module math, and it's going to give a description of that. Then what are all the different functions and how to call. All the things will be given. If you type help within a single quotes or double quotes to be specified, it will give all the list of functions is available in that particular math module. And same time, these are all different variables or data which is stored in your math model. So help of system will give system related values. So path, display, what is the standard input and output, what will be the error type and login times, those things will be displayed or stored in your sys module. And you have one more module called calendar. So this will going to give a calendar of the current year. And this is also has some functions. So there will be a typing mistakes. So next is your creating a model. So you can create your own model using Python code, and you need to save that file with the extension called .py extensions. So this is created a module called mymodule.py, and in that I have defined a function called myfunctions. So in this function, I'm just saying that Python is easy to learn. So I have saved the file with the extension called py. So this can be imported to some other files. Import. I need to import the file name, that is my module. Then to write a function of my module, I need to use my module dot my function. So after this, I need to save this file. So I'm saving this as test.py. So I'm running this code. Sorry. Yes. So while you are saving your file, you need to know where your both your modules and your current files should be get saved. Both files should be in the same directory. Otherwise, you need to specify where you have stored. I made a mistake in typing function. Okay. So I got output. So I've written a code in my module for the function my functions. Python is easy to learn. I have called this function in my module, which means in test, by importing that module. And after importing, I'm calling that function using the object of my module. So there is one more function called dir functions. So this is going to use to list all the members of your current module. So it just gives the attributes which is present in a particular module. So if I go with dir of math, it will display, sorry, I need to import math, dir of math. It will give all the attributes and functions which is present in the math module. So module is used to create or to solve a problem very easily. We are going with the modules, and module can be two types. One is user defined, another one is built-in. So when it comes to built-in, you have lots of modules, and in that modules you have other sub-functions. You can use those things. So when it comes to user-defined, you need to create your own functions, classes, and sequences. So if you have any questions, I try to answer for those.
Thank you very much, madam, for spending your valuable time and sharing your knowledge. Now the floor is open for question and answer. Anybody can ask questions. The feedback link has already been shared. Okay, so you can just it's shared in WhatsApp group. You can refer WhatsApp group. Yeah, okay, okay.
Hello, Deepak. Yes, here by default the string
Yes, ma'am.
by default the string will be taken to input using int or float. You can convert those to a integer values or a floating point representation.
So what about like a string to numbers and otherwise characters to
It is
some,
not possible, sir. When it is string, it is a string. If you get if the value is displayed or if it is created as a string, then you can convert. But
Yeah.
exactly string cannot be converted to integer and float values.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
For programming,
Uma Devi ma'am, actually based on the indentations, we are going to identify where multiple for loops. Okay. Based on the indentations, we are going to identify when we are dealing with the multiple for loop statements.
Mr.
Thank you, ma'am. Shivanand sir. So for practice programs, we will share it in a group if you require. Okay?
Okay, madam. Thank you.
Arvind sir, I think you can conclude.
Yes, sir, I'm available. Hope the question and answer session is completed. So if there is anything anybody can ask, if not, we will end the session. Thank you, madam. Thank you for a wonderful talk. And thank you, dear participants. Kindly fill the attendance and the feedback form shared in the Google Meet and in the WhatsApp group. Thank you all once again. We will see you tomorrow, the same time.